because I don't know, like, the scope of programming here is like different from what you face in your daily life as a programmer. Like, it's not, you're not talking about structure, infrastructure. You're not talking about services or these kind of things. You're talking about the lower level when it comes uh, to the code or the application layer. So yeah, it's good to have these skills. We're gonna go and try to solve. I'm gonna be just thinking out loud. I went through this before. I actually solved the first one, or maybe the first 10, I believe, but I don't really remember how I did that. So we're gonna go through it again and try to come up with a solution and to maybe hopefully hit 100% rank. So they're gonna be testing you for correctness, and they're gonna be testing you as well as, if I remember, for performance, right? So it's so important to have it right, correct, even if you can't solve it fully, to have like to have it correct to a certain extent. Um, all right, let's just try. So cool. So the first thing here, so I'm going to be using PHP as a programming language. Well, uh, I'm familiar with it, so I'm really comfortable with PHP when it comes to this stuff. You can just maybe, I don't know, have an idea about how we're going to solve it, then you can convert it to your own language, whether it's JavaScript, Python, or whatever you are comfortable with. So the first thing here is to read the question, and don't panic. Like, you see all these numbers and all these words, so it's very easy for you to panic. So we have 1 hour, we have 2 hours here, and it's way too much for this question, because in a real life interview, you're gonna have like maximum 30 minutes if they're generous with you. Um, so just when you practice, try to solve it as soon as, like, as fast as you can, like 15 to 30 minutes max. Put a timer, do something, or when you practice here. So I'm gonna be solving this question with you. Let's start. It's the binary gap question. Um, I believe I remember this question, so I'm gonna skip the introduction here. I'm gonna go for the example. So technically what they're trying to tell us, or the question is, we have a number and we need to find the binary representation of that number. After we do that, it contains a binary gap of length 2. So we need to find the binary gaps. Okay, cool. So now, all right. Okay, so the number 529 has a binary representation of this number and contains two binary gaps, of course, because it has, so the binary gap is going to be the number of zeros between ones. All right, so here we have two. We have the first one, which has, it has 4 zeros, and the other one has 3. Okay, the number 20 has a binary representation. I believe this should be 1. It contains one binary gap. Yep. 15 has a binary representation of 111, so no gaps. 32 has no gaps as well, because, all right, we started with 1, but we didn't have the closing one here. All right, cool. So it's really important to use the examples here as your constraint, as your tests before you submit. Of course, they have some tests here. Before you submit, you can run some tests. You're gonna see how it works, or maybe you're familiar with the platform already. So let's keep on reading the question. So write a function, all right, that gives a positive integer. Giving a positive integer. So we're gonna be expecting or accepting an integer, a positive integer, and return the length of the longest binary gap. Cool. So, all right, the function should return 0 if n doesn't contain a binary gap. I guess this is clear, and like we just we need to find the max, or we like the longest binary gap, which is, yeah, the maximum value of the gaps we have. All right, so giving n is 1041, the function should return 5 because n has a binary representation of the term. All right, so I'm sure like if you're watching this video, then you already have the question in front of you. You can read it and everything. So let's start coding. And here we're gonna take it to PHP Storm. I'm gonna be using PHP Storm. And since they're expecting us to return an integer, I'm gonna echo the solution. All right, and we're gonna start with, what was it? I guess it was 1041, and we should expect 5. Cool. All right, so 1041, that should return. So the first thing to do is don't forget that it's gonna be an integer, right? And it has like it has a range, so we'll keep that till the end. All right, so the first thing to do, so since we're expecting or accepting an integer, we need to convert that number to a binary number, a binary representation. And to do that in PHP is to have a function called the spin, I guess. That's how you pronounce it. I'm not really sure, but yeah. So this is it. And let's just try it. Or just return it, because we already have an echo. All right, so okay, so we have it here. That's the binary representation of 1041. Let's just keep it here for the sake of just to look at it when we try to solve the problem. Okay, so the first thing that comes to my mind, okay, so I need to count the zeros. I need to count the zeros. So to do that, I want to find out if we are 1. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is to check if you are 1, all right, and another check inside it if you have a previous one or not. So let's start with this. Let's find the length first for this, and it's gonna be string length for the binary. Why do we do that? Because we're gonna be using the for loop. The for loop. Okay, frozen. That's nice. Cool. All right. Cool. So let's do that just really quick. All right. Yeah. Cool. All right. We're back to it. So yeah. So we're gonna be using the for loop and choose I equals 0. I is less than the length, and then I plus plus. I don't know, I feel like the laptop is gonna fly right now. But yeah, so just let's try to print them just to make sure we are on the right page right here. And let's give it like an n, all right, and let's just die it here. Okay, if we run, okay, lesson, okay, syntax error, yeah, it's very important. All right, cool. So yeah, so cool. So we managed to print them out. Now we need to test it. So as I said, okay, one of the things that I can think about right now is to use a stack. Okay, let's try this out. If we use a stack here, let's say SPL stack. If you're not familiar with the SPL stack, I recommend, if you're using PHP and you don't use the SPL objects or classes or built-in ADTs, so you should really go and check them out, because you reduce a lot of time and time and space when you're using like an array as a stack, or the opposite, or like, you need to read about them anyway. So let's call it a stack here, and then whenever I find a 1, I'm gonna put it inside, I'm gonna push it, right? All right. If it's not, then we're gonna be counting the zeros, 0, 0, 0. Cool. Now the next time I find the 1, I'm gonna check the stack. If we have a 1, then we're gonna put this, let's say, inside an array or something. Okay, but cool. All right, the next round is gonna be like 0, 0, 0. All right, and then I'm gonna face 1. But here I popped it. So the next time 1, but we don't have anything in the stack. Well, okay. Well, one of the main, like one of the, I don't know, tricks or something like that. Okay, so let me use a flag. Let me use a flag called has1. All right, called has1. Has1 is gonna be false. All right. So if I say the following, if, all right, if binary I equal 1. So if you are 1, all right, we'll have to do something here. If you are not a 1, then we need to count the zeros. So let's also define a variable. Now, I'm not going to be using any functional programming or dynamic programming here. It's going to be straightforward and just to make it work. And then you can refactor your code however you see fit. Like, of course, you can like array map it and use other techniques to do the iteration. So if you're not a 1, then you're gonna increase the zeros, right? Okay, so if we are a 1, and we are the first one, so if not has 1, so if you are the first one, then has 1 equal true. Cool. So we covered this. So we are the first one, right? We didn't have any previous ones. Okay, I don't want to increase the zeros yet, so I'm gonna continue. Cool. But here, okay, so 0, 0, 0, 0, zeros. Cool. Next time, the first, we got a 1. You have a 1, yes, so I'm gonna have to store the zeros, right? I'm gonna have to store the zeros. I don't like these state variables, but I have to do them. Let's call it gaps, okay, an empty array. And here, if you're not the first one, then you are a closing one, right? If you are not the first one, then you are a closing one. Then we have to put the zeros here. Okay, zeros here. And then you need to continue. You need to continue. Okay. Okay, so we have an array that has all the gaps. Since it's an array, we're going to be using the max function of the gaps. Max function of the gaps. Let's try this out. If we passed 1041, okay, let's keep this for now. Okay, it's an 8, and here it's saying that it should return a 5. 8. So 8 is, yeah, so 8 is 5 plus 3, right? So, okay. So we didn't actually reset the counter, which is the zeros, right? So if you are a 1 and you don't have a previous one, then you are the previous one, then we continue. If you are a 1, but we already have a 1, then the zeros, we reset the zeros and we continue. Otherwise, if you are a 0, then the 0 will. All right, that's perfect. Here we run it, and yes, we have a 5. All right, that's nice. Well, let's go back and see what else do they have. For example, For example, this one we tested out, it's 5 and we got it right. And then the other one is 32. 32 should return 0. It has no gaps. All right, 32 should return 0. So this is a 5, right? And we got it right. This is a 0, which is 32. If we run this, array must contain at least one element. Oh, okay. So because we are returning an array, and it's empty. So I guess I'm gonna be using something like that. I'm gonna be checking up for the, if it's empty, if empty the array, then return 0. Otherwise, you will return this, the max, right? Okay, so let's clear it and then go here. It's gonna be 0. Cool. So let's make sure this one is still working. 5, 0. All right. What else? Now, they have tests here, and you can run them once you're done with your code. But still, when you read the question, you still have these between the lines examples. So you actually, like, they're very helpful. You can use them. What else? What else they're telling us? So it's an integer, return blah blah blah. So let's take the first one here, which is gap of 2. Number 9 has a binary representation of the length 2. Okay, so 9 and 5 2 9. So 9 should give me length 2. Okay, so 5 2 9. Let's take 5 2 9, 2 binaries. Okay. Okay. So 9 should give me 2, and 5 2 9 should give me 4, length 4, and 1 length. Okay. 9 should give me 2. Let's try 9 first. Let's try 9. Should give me 2, I guess. 9. Okay. So 9 got me 2. And the other one is, oh, sorry for that. Other one is gonna be 5 2 something, right? It's 5 2 9. It has 2. One of the length 4 and the other one is length 3. So we're gonna get 4. 5 2 9. 5 2 9. It's gonna give me 4. Okay, so I believe it's I don't know. I think it's gonna do the job for now. We can refactor it. Maybe later I can I don't know, create a video about refactoring the code. Some of our examples, we're gonna take it and break it down line by line and see how can we optimize the code. But for now, I guess this will do. Now, one thing is the main constraint, the check itself, right? Which is n is an integer within the range from 1 to, what is it, 2 billion something? 2 billion? All right. So n is an integer, so we're gonna be checking for an integer, right? So let's say, okay, let's take this down. F is integer, all right. F is integer n, and it has n is greater than or equal 1, and is less or equal this huge number. All right, let's go here. Of course, you can use like the defense mechanism, but let's try. I'm not trying to come up with a production code here. So, okay, but in this case, we have this bug here. So let's take the array variable outside. So in this case, if we didn't meet this condition, we can have an empty array and it will return 0. So, so again, so if it's integer and it's greater, less, I guess we're good when it comes to the checks, and that's the only check, which is straightforward. Let's try some of the, I don't know, something that we can come up with. Minus 888. It should return 0. 0 should return 0 should return 0. All right, cool. I guess we're good when it comes to this. Well, let's try it out. Let's try it out. Let me do this. All right. No. Cool. Here. Cool. 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 All right. Cool. I guess we're good to go. Let's run the tests. Fine. So we passed the initial test. That doesn't mean we solved it right, because again, they test you correctness and performance. So it's tricky, and they have multiple tests in the background. So let's see. Let's try to submit and hope for the best. I'm gonna put myself here. Continue. All right. So we scored 100%. All right, it's correct at least. So they didn't check. They didn't check for the performance. Maybe that's why we scored the 100. Because maybe it's a huge number after all, right? I guess and it has a linear complexity. We're iterating through every item in the array, so I'm sure we can like come up with a more efficient solution. But for now, it worked. It worked, and you can see here that kind of tests they actually like tried or applied on your code. These are the ones we passed once we ran the tests, and these are the hidden one, the correctness tests. Yeah, you can see like simple, medium. They're testing the length of the integers. Some of them are random. Okay, 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 okay. So yeah, so that's it. I'm sure when it comes to refactoring again, this camera is in the back of my head, so yeah. So yeah, we can refactor it, of course, but we're gonna do that later. It took us 20 minutes again. Like try to make it, try to put a timer like 15 to 30 minutes max, so you can just like have it in the back of your head like a habit, build this habit of solving a problem, or maybe like 80% of the problem in that time. So yeah, so this is the first one. I hope it was enjoyable. I hope it was informative. So the next video, we're going to be solving, I believe, the next or the second question on Codility. So keep it up. We'll see you later.